Well, let's begin our news review now. This morning, as you can see, I'm joined by political reporter for Politics Home, Tom Scottson, and campaigner, author and broadcaster, Natasha Devon. Great to have your company. Thank you so much. Shall we kick off with a story in the Mail today, Natasha? Because we're talking about this social media ban. The consultation comes to an end this week. Kemi Badenoch has been a fierce critic of Keir Starmer, accusing him of dithering when it comes to just come out with a ban, she says. And what she's saying, essentially, is that this is going to be another Labour U-turn because there's talk, perhaps, after sort of holding off, that there could potentially be a full ban, Australia-style.
Keir Starmer is coming under pressure from all sides now to just implement the ban because it's seen as a quick fix, despite the fact that the evidence doesn't really support that, not least of all the evidence coming out of Australia where a ban has already been implemented. But, you know, the thing about this article that really caught my eye was they say the Tories have blamed social media addiction for the surging mental health crisis engulfing young British people. I don't know if you know this, but I was very briefly the government's first ever mental health czar for young people. And this was something that I encountered even back then. And I was making the point that poverty is the leading cause of all ill health, whether that's physical or mental. So austerity had a major role to play in spiralling mental illness since 2010. Also, Michael Gove's changes to the education system, increasing testing, taking away subjects with a proven therapeutic value like art and sport within the curriculum. I think it's very convenient for the Conservative Party that presided over all of this for 14 years to put the blame solely on smartphones.
Where the temperature is really hot is where Kemi Badenoch is. So she's thinking, you know, parents want this, so let me align myself there because it's quick and it's easy. The debate as a parent is so much more nuanced, I think, with social media, Tom, because none of this really points to social media companies to adjust features within their platforms and take responsibility for what's on those sites, actually. It's more nuanced. Our children are born into this digital environment now. We can't suddenly strip it away and think that the world's problems will suddenly be changed.
Yeah, I think politically, for a good headline for someone like Kemi Badenoch, who's trying to win over maybe more people of parents, particularly because the Tories are just banking on older voters now. So it maybe appeals to that kind of generation between, 30s, 40s and 50s. But yeah, as I said, it's a lot more nuanced debate, and I think that the mental health and the social media addiction that they're talking about for young people doesn't just stem within the younger generation. I think it spirals all the way up to all ages. So yeah, it's a very nuanced subject, and I think it's one that I think is probably too focused on the younger generation when it's affecting people 20s, 30s and even the 40s.
Yeah, even affects me. I wake up and check my social media at 3 in the morning. Anyway, we're going to move on. Much more to come from that story. Financial Times, front page, Tom. We've been hearing about whether there's a deal or no deal in the negotiations with Iran and the US. But peace talks drag on, essentially.
So this fragile ceasefire between Iran and the US and Israel keeps stumbling on. Donald Trump has said that he doesn't want to rush in to a final agreement. He said that it's going to be incredibly different anyway to the JCPOA, which was the original agreement that was negotiated between Obama's administration and Iran, I should say. I think Trump has kind of found himself between a rock and a hard place. He's got the electorate he's looking at for the midterms, so he's probably going to lose the House of Representatives and also the Senate, which is, incredibly damaging and also embarrassing for the Republicans. But he's also looking at maybe his more hawkish members, that he's got people like Ted Cruz, ex-Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who said this is kind of a once-in-a-generation chance to eliminate Iran's nuclear capabilities, and we've got to take it now. And I do agree that if they are going to eliminate that, they've probably got to do something. But the war has been that disastrous on a political and military level that I think there's probably going to have to come to some sort of botched agreement at one point.
Yeah, the economic fallout too with the Strait of Hormuz blocked, also huge. Can we just move on to a really interesting story? It's about Emma Thompson, the actress, Oscar-winning actress, should I add. She's talking about how older women, Natasha, are being pushed out of representation on our screens in the film industry. But I think actually this touches on something quite bigger within society.
I mean, extraordinarily, if you are either a talking cartoon animal or a man called Chris, you are more likely to have a lead role in a Hollywood hit than if you're a woman over 60. And this matters because Human beings are one of the few species that have menopause, and there is a reason for that. As we get older, our chances of dying in childbirth increase. So nature gives us menopause so that we survive, because older women are really crucial to the survival of the tribe. Older women matter. It's one of the reasons that human beings have survived as long as we have. And therefore, the stories of women over 60 should be prioritised within our culture.
We don't see it enough. I mean, I think as you get older as a woman, your story becomes ever more interesting. That's just my opinion. Right, we're going to move on now to the Times, Tom. And there appears to be more revelations about Antonio Romeo and Morgan McSweeney, and reports around not only conduct but that theft of McSweeney's phone.
So it says that, and I think this is the most striking revelation that we've seen, that there's only been verbal kind of reports of this, and there's been no kind of concrete report, which, quite frankly, I think if you're looking at the public, you don't follow politics that often. I think you'll look at this and think, you know, this is quite an odd story to come out, and also one that really doesn't you know, show politics in a very good light. You look at someone like Keir Starmer, came in as Prime Minister, meant to clean up a lot of the, you know, so-called corruption and problems that happened within the last few years. But then you've got something that allegedly, with a phone theft, McSweeney, and no reports. I mean, he's meant to be the Chief of Staff for the Prime Minister. You know, he was the person that kind of created the Starmer project, so close to the Prime Minister, seen as indispensable. But then when something like this happens, he loses a government phone, and there's no physical report to look back on. I don't know, I think this is incredibly suspicious, and it's just, you know, it's a terrible look for the government, and we've got the Mandelson files coming out next week. You know, this is just not going to add to Keir Starmer's authority, and I think it's just going to damage it even further.
Yeah, there's so much more to come on that story in the coming weeks. Tom Scottson, thank you so much. Natasha, Devon, thanks for your company. Join us at the top of the hour.
We're trying to see as much as we can.